Hello, Brian Willingham here. I'm walking through my habit change journal process and what I've learned from it. Um, Number one, I learned the importance of if you're a person in leadership that is tasked with the job of helping other people change, then you need to be able to institute change within yourself on a personal level, which is something that was eye-opening for me, something that I should have known, or maybe on some level I was aware of, but this class made me more aware of the fact of how important that was, that I needed to be able to um, plan a change for myself and then be able to make that change within myself before I could do it in other people or inspire it in other people. And certainly if you're not able to do it on an individual basis, then how could you effectively lead change for other people when you're not able to do it for yourself? And from that, you get a chance to see how really difficult it is to change things. And I've had jobs such as being in the military. I'm a military veteran. I'm also a retired police officer and currently a pastor, in which um, almost everything in pastoring revolves around trying to inspire people how they need to change, how they need to do things different, how they need to consider changes. And again, if you're not able to um, embody that change yourself, then it makes it more difficult, maybe impossible for you to inspire other people to make changes. And what you learn also is how really difficult it is to decide on a change, how difficult it is to not only decide on what you want to change, how difficult it is to initiate that change and then um, sustain it, sustain that change. And I've seen, again, because I've had a lot of life experience in professional life and not necessarily a heavy academic background, what I saw too in this process was how the academic aspect of it shed light on something that I was already experiencing or had already experienced in in the real world. And so this class was kind of like a deja vu for me. I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen that. Oh yeah, I'm dealing with that, and and I realize again how hard it is really to implement change, how hard it is to sustain change if you can even implement it. And so that was my process, um, deciding on change for me, an exercise routine. The other thing I learned too is if you have experiences, again for me, with military and policing and pastoral work, if you are in jobs where you already are in the process of change and you get used to processes, and that's one thing to my benefit in this class is that being in ministry, particularly, it's a life of process, and so when you are used to processes of change, when you are used to systematic ways of doing things, then it's less difficult to go through the change process, to initiate change, to plan that change, and then try to sustain it. Um, because what you do see is a difficulty again, either initiating And even when you initiate something, can you sustain it? But when you have experience at working in processes, it's easier to negotiate change. And so for me, it was exercise because that's a particular weakness for me. And so I tried to choose something that was difficult for me to do, something that would be challenging or something that I considered a weak point. And for me, fitness and weight, quite frankly, is something that I wanted to improve on. And so that was number one. I tried to pick something where I was most challenged. And the process that I went through with exercise is that what I realized too, in one church that I lead, I have a small gym in that church. And so when I identified my weak point, I realized I really had very little excuse to make that change. And I had all the tools necessary for me to make the change. And sometimes that is the reality too, that the thing we really want to change, many times we already have the tools, we already have the support, because it didn't really dawn on me as much that, man, I have a gym right there in my church, and it was very easy if I had the will and I had the right focus to choose that as a point of change. And so I started by placing my car keys in my gym shoes because I'm at the church all the time and I'm not using the gym. And if I would put my car keys in my gym shoes every day, then it would remind me I couldn't leave the house without getting my keys from my shoes, and thus my shoes would remind me of the need to work out. And so now, day one, I started slow. I started doing, first initiating the change, getting those keys and putting them in my shoes, and then realizing that, I needed to make this change. Then I started with 5 laps around the gym when I went in, and I shot baskets for 30 minutes a day, which, 30 minutes that week, because it was, again, I'm a former military person, former athletic coach. So I worked my way from 5 laps in 30 minutes to 10 laps in 30 minutes of shooting baskets, 15 laps in 45 minutes, and I got up to 20 laps and being able to shoot 4 baskets for an hour. And these were all skills that I had previously had. And so they were easy for me to tap into again. And so this is what I learned from my habit change, and I'm grateful for this experience. And have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.